O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
All right, we'll see if we can get things organized here. Madam Clerk, we're on to roll call, please.
All right, good morning, Council. Councillor Mackey.
Present.
Councillor Gamble.
Present.
Councillor Burley.
Present.
Councillor Carlton.
Present.
Councillor McQueen.
Present.
Councillor Desai.
Present.
Councillor Patterson.
Present.
Warden Hicks.
Here.
Councillor Clumpus. Councillor Keaveney.
Present.
Councillor Body.
Present.
Councillor O'Leary.
Present.
Councillor Woodbury.
Present.
Councillor Millen.
Present.
Councillor Soever.
Present.
Councillor Potter.
Present.
Councillor Robinson.
Present.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. We're going to turn next to the land acknowledgement. I will say that we acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat, Wyandot peoples, on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its diverse peoples. Okay, Council, is there any declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise? Seeing none, I would just say if one comes up during the course of the meeting, I would ask you to declare it at that time. Item number 5, item number 6, adoption of minutes. First of all, County Council Committee of the Whole minutes dated September 23rd, 2021. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Burley, seconded by Councillor Milne. Is there any discussion on that? And seeing none, then I will call the question. Anyone opposed? Oh. I have to go back to the regular way, don't I? All those in favor? And is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. Item 7, we're dealing now with 7A, the Board of Health minutes dated August 27th, 2021. I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Woodbury. And Dr. Era is present with us by Zoom. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Warden. Good morning, Council. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Thank you. If you would like me to proceed with the update.
Yes, please.
Thank you. So the update from the last meeting, the main item was the response to COVID, and we still continue comparing to that time to have optimal control over the pandemic locally the number of new cases on average are less than 5 per day, quite manageable. There has not been outbreaks in any of the sensitive sectors, whether it is schools, hospitals, childcare, long-term care, retirement homes. So this is an optimal situation at the time, and we continue to monitor if there is any increase, especially after the holidays, and the results have been reassuring. The numbers provincially are trending down. The situation in Grey Bruce remains stable, despite the fact that we are a few days after the Thanksgiving event. All in all, we are in a very relatively good position. The vaccine rollout continued to increase. We're sitting at 85% 1 dose and 81 2 doses. And we continue to provide vaccines through different modalities, whether it's the clinics in schools. We completed all schools in Grey Bruce 1 round, and we plan to repeat that 30 days after each clinic in each school. We completed the long-term care and high-risk retirement homes before the target by the province. We completed them last week, and we are proceeding to provide 3rd dose for all retirement homes as the provincial direction. We continue to work on vaccine rollout on different fronts. There is the anticipated flu vaccine season, and we have plans, preparation for it, specifically with the primary care and pharmacy partners. For the catch-up vaccines, there are plans to proceed with this late fall if everything allows from the response to the pandemic. And specifically, the catch-up vaccines are the regular school vaccines that were on hold for the past 18 months. The vaccine for children under 12 years old, we have also plans to proceed with that as soon as it is approved and we receive direction. And the plans for approval remain the same in November, as I reported earlier. There is some change in the practicality of the delivery of these vaccines is related to the manufacturer. For them to provide the vaccine for this age group, it might take a month or 2. So it might be in December or January for us to receive the vaccines in Ontario, but those are general estimates, can change. And the final plan is for potential 3rd dose for the general public. Hopefully, we will not need that if we reach a level of control over the pandemic and the level of vaccination that would lead to preventing the transmission of the disease. And on this front, Mr. Warden, the numbers provincially trending down, looking at the coverage that we have has not reached in the province 90%. Nevertheless, you look at the cases that recovered from the disease and have immunity, knowing that not every case will be captured by the system and reported, only if people are tested and the test turned positive. So for each case that's recovered and reported, there is anticipation of 2 to 3 cases. So that's a survey from 2020, May 2020 revealed that for each case, there are 2 to 3 cases unrecovered. So if we put this in the equation of coverage, the number 85% coverage or 81 2 doses can be increased by some percent or 2. And if you look at hotspots in the province that had a high level of transmission, that number can be higher. My own bias could be around 5%. And that might very well explain why the circulation of the virus provincially has slowed down or trended, the numbers trended down. All in all, it is our mission to complete the vaccination and as high as we can. And hopefully we are on the trending down of the curve. Again, I would feel much more confident saying this by the end of October if we didn't see increase in the cases. But so far, it is encouraging that there is control and the measures that we have are working, and there will be plans to reduce these measures and restrictions as we go forward. And Mr. Worden, there was a question last time I attended council from one of the councillors about a new virus, the Nipah virus, if I may address that question at this point. So the Nipah virus is not a new virus. It was identified in 1999, and it is one of these viruses that have high case fatality. Fatality rate is around 60%. 60% of cases will not survive with that virus. And this is in some sense what would not make it a virus that can cause pandemics. It's counterintuitive, but the more fatal the virus is, the less chances for it to pass itself from host to host, versus, for example, the COVID-19 fatality rate is around 2%, and there are many people who are asymptomatic. So the virus will have chances to stay in the host, the human, for a longer period of time and pass itself. And so that virus exists. It's highly has high fatality rate, and it caused outbreaks, smaller outbreaks in different countries around the world. I wouldn't see it as a major concern for a pandemic, if that answers the question.
Thank you, Dr. Era. Before I go to questions, Councillor Patterson, is there anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Warden Hicks, and good morning, County Council and Dr. Era. Just briefly, the board is reviewing policies and updating them. We're working on that and starting some training sessions. And I may have shared this before, but it's worth repeating. The Northern Ontario School of Medicine approved the Grey Bruce Health Unit to become a teaching site, which is beneficial to the residents that are in training and also very beneficial to the health unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Questions from anyone? Councillor Mackey?
Thanks, Mr. Warden, and good morning, County Council. Thanks for your report, Dr. Era. Just wondering, with the recent announcement from our American friends about opening the border, is the province looking at allowing a third dose for those that received a Pfizer Moderna? A number of snowbirds will be wanting to head to the States, and my understanding is the States isn't going to allow the people that received the two different vaccinations. So can you just comment on that, please? Thank you.
For you, Mr. Warden, I agree with your statement that the States highly unlikely will allow people to cross the border without two doses of the same vaccine. This issue has been on the radar for a number of weeks now, a couple months, I would say. And I know the province is working with the federal government on potential solutions. One of them is to communicate with other jurisdictions, including the United States, to recognize the efficacy of mixed vaccines, and that will, by definition, would resolve the issue. The other front is to look at allowing us to provide a third dose. I know firsthand MPP Walker has been working actively on this or advocating for this, and the Minister, Mr. Jones, who's responsible for rollout of vaccine, in communication with the federal government feels very strongly about the issue. Nevertheless, at this point, we don't have any direction for one of these two solutions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, then I would thank you, Dr. Arrow, for your time today.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with the agenda, we're on to item number 8, good news and celebrations. Is there anyone with good news and celebration? Councillor Robinson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning to County Council and county staff. Good news, certainly for Grey County and West Grey. Yesterday, we had the distinct pleasure of having Minister Todd Smith, who's the Minister of Energy, MPP Bill Walker, as well as Warden Hicks, attend with me the provincial announcement of a natural gas expansion into Neustadt. So that certainly is a step forward for residents and all sectors in our community. So it's something that I wanted to share with County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. And that was indeed exciting news for the people of Newstead and good for Grey County. Councillor Body.
Oh, there we go. It's been too long. Thank you, Warden Hicks. Two really big events, I think. Last Saturday, October 2nd, we had the mother sturgeon installed down at the Gitche-Name-Wikwedong Park, Reconciliation Garden, I guess, at the south end of Kelso Park. If you go down to the grain elevators, there's a bridge there. That's the easiest way to get to it. It is a magnificent piece of art worth seeing. It's really special. You know, we can name bridges and we can put in or support putting in monuments and things, and it's good gestures. It's positive gestures towards reconciliation. However, second event yesterday was huge. Over in the old Leon's building, a block from us here, a new company called Makwa Cahill, or Cahill, that's how we'd pronounce it, but Call was how they pronounced it from the East Coast. Cahill Construction is a huge company that does a lot of fabrication and manufacturing and is a supplier to Bruce Power. They've hooked up with Makwa Development Corporation, which is owned by Nawash residents, Scott Lee and Shane Chagano. They've already done some construction. I think they said $14 million project over at Bruce Power. This plant, being partly Indigenous owned, will help train, using Georgian College to train young Indigenous men and women, and non-Indigenous. It'll be both. To get skills, develop, stay in the community, be able to be educated in the community, and get jobs. And I didn't hear the exact number yesterday, but I'd heard different numbers of how many jobs, and it was many jobs. So a great use for a building that was sitting vacant. Another Bruce Power company that has a contract with Bruce Power that has moved to the area that will stay longer, provide services and goods to the Ontario from Grey Bruce Huron, and involving the Indigenous is a huge step going forward that I can foresee us seeing more of. This is the first one in Ontario, so it's pretty impressive. So that's good news. Thank you.
Fantastic news indeed, Councillor Body. I think when I was reading yesterday, I think I read 150 jobs. It's awesome. Anyone else? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Warden. Proud to share that our Economic Development Officer, April Marshall, has been recognized as one of EDCO's top 10 professionals for 2021. So we're very proud of April and extend her congratulations. Thank you.
Sure, April is awesome. Anyone else? Councillor Sauber?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Just like to advise council that I missed last meeting because we had Minister Tangri of the Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction, and we were able to have some very good meetings with her. We had a roundtable at the village with the village businesses. We visited an apple sorting plant and a mining equipment manufacturer in the Blue Mountains, as well as had a very nice roundtable with our agricultural community and as well as the small businesses. She was very receptive to their comments on how to cut some of the government red tape. And the government has recently announced that they're looking forward to completing their goal of $400 million of red tape reduction before the end of their term. So it was great to have the minister up there. Also on October 25th, there was a very successful Oktoberfest celebration in Clarksburg. There was an event at the new patio on the Marsh Street Center, as well as an Oktoberfest dinner and in the Legion parking lot, which was preceded by an art and craft sale. And so there was a good amount of money raised for both the Marsh Street Center and the Legion and the Grants and Donations Committee. And I think, it's great that we're starting to get back to normal.
Very good. Thank you for that. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Warden and County Council, and just want to share with everyone that the Markdale Hospital Foundation will be kicking off their campaign on this Saturday at the Grey Highlands parking lot at the Grey Gables, our lower unit there with regards to our own municipal parking lot. I am happy to also say that our rodeo that we had 2 weeks ago was quite successful. And we had both days were sold out. It didn't take rain to keep people away for having a good time. And I think that was the first check off, was people just had something to go and to attend. And there was a lot of happy faces and smiling faces, but both days were sold out. And I'm happy to say that, well, I'll give you the phone number on Saturday when we do the presentation, but we raised over $30,000 through that event. So thanks to our sponsors, thanks to our staff at Grey Highlands, and also thanks for the volunteers. And the big part was thanks for the people that came out and had a good time and also contribute to that good, well cause that needs for everyone and to help to build, as Mr. Fraser would say, who's the chair, Harvey Fraser would say, is the province builds the hospital, but the community has to put the stuff inside the hospital. So that's the campaign that's going on. So again, thanks for everyone being part of that, and thanks again.
Well, thank you and congratulations, Deputy Warden. Anyone else? If not, then I will call on Courtney, who's going to give us a little update on the upcoming Grey Bruce Small Business Week.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you
Perfect.
perfectly, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me this morning. I just want to give you all an update on our Small Business Week plans for this year. So in early 2021, we created an entrepreneurship ecosystem, and that was a group which brought together quarterly all of the entrepreneurship support providers within Grey and Bruce. And the intent for that group was for us to be able to share with each other the initiatives that we're working on, and also find ways in which we could partner and collaborate on future events and projects. And the first one that has come out of that group is Grey Bruce Small Business Week. So I'm going to try and share my screen if that is okay. Are you able to see that schedule?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So over the course of next week, in coordination with our 6 other partners from Graham Brews, we're going to be offering 12 events and webinars for the small business community. All the events will be offered free of charge because we want to encourage as many to become involved as possible. And we're hitting on 3 main topics throughout the week: business fundamentals for those who are new to small business, opportunities for scaling growth for those who are existing and looking to grow, as well as workforce, because we know that is the main issue that most of our small businesses are struggling with today within our community. On Thursday, we are going to have a keynote from Mandy Gilbert, who is an entrepreneur and an author. And through the writing of her books, she's done an immense amount of research on talent attraction and retention. So she will be sharing what she has learned about what works for employers in regards to attraction and retention. And then we'll be holding a panel with 3 local business owners who are really kind of leading the way in that respect, for them to share their experience and what they have found successful over the last 18 months throughout the pandemic when it comes to staffing. So those are our plans for the week, and we would love if you would share it with your small businesses. In addition to the events and workshops we have planned, we'll also be using our social media platforms to share more about our small businesses, really try and encourage celebrating our small businesses throughout next week. They've had a really rough 18 months, as we all are well aware. And although we want to be appreciating them every day, particularly next week, we're hoping the community will go out and really tell them how much we value what they do for our communities. So yeah, so really looking forward to next week, and hopefully we get a lot of small businesses out to participate.
That looks exciting, Courtney. Thank you for that update. Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. Could I request for you for staff to send us a JPEG version of that PDF that was presented so that we could share it to our social media? Thank you.
You heard that, Courtney?
Absolutely. We'll share that as well as the link to the Eventbrite.
Very good. I think we've got, Deputy Warden.
I must say, it must not be forgotten about as the exciting day that yesterday that Captain James Kirk flew out of our orbit for a brief time. And I guess that saying goes, boldly go where no man and woman has gone before. I better get that in there. And so that was sort of an exciting an event yesterday. I don't know if everybody watched the news last night or saw it live, but I think the one part that he captured on that is how we are in such a containment where we are as our world to the outer space that he referenced in the black versus the blue. So I think that was something that, if you haven't seen that, his emotion, his real true passion to what he saw there was next to none. And the guy's 90 years old. Can you imagine, eh? So good on him. Thanks, Mr. Warden.
Thank you. Yes, I was quite taken at how emotional he was. Yeah, and that comparison of life and death, I suppose. Councillor Desai.
Thank you. And I just, in addition to that, I just want to make sure that staff is recognized today for making this possible, being back in chambers. I know I've bugged Kim a lot, and I take partial credit for us being here. You're all welcome. But no, a heartfelt thank you to staff and everyone who's made this happen. It's really good to be back here. It's really good to see Councillor Milne across from me be wrong all the time now. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that. I do think the staff need to be acknowledged for sure. I know that they were very busy yesterday getting all of these partitions installed. Okay, I think we are finished with good news and celebrations. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Desai, seconded by Councillor Mackey. I want to go and say, anyone opposed? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. I'll just take a quick second to get over to Committee of the Whole. Excellent. So I'll call this meeting to order. We're now meeting as Committee of the Whole. Council, is there any declaration of interest, pecuniary or otherwise? Seeing none, I would ask you again to declare if one comes up during the course of the meeting. We're on to item number 3, business arising from the minutes. Councillor Desai, I know that you had you've withdrawn your notice of motion with respect to electoral reform, but we can move on to item B and your notice of motion that was provided regarding, I'd say mental health. You have the floor. Do you want to move it? So moved by Councillor Desai, seconded by Councillor Robinson. She got you beat by just a bit there, Councillor Gamble. Only Milne. The brain is not working today, folks.
Did you want to order lunch or what were you?
Yeah. At least it's not Carlton and Keaveney anymore. Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. The notice of motion itself is pretty self-explanatory. All I'd like to say on this is the job we do, it's changed significantly, especially since the advent of social media. There's increased scrutiny, which I'm all for, but at the same time, there's also an avenue for people to make attacks on our characters. Keeping this in mind and the increased focus on mental health, it is important that the county offer coverage for mental health supports to members of council. I'm also extremely proud to announce that the municipality of Grey Highlands unanimously passed a similar motion to provide coverage for its council members. And my hope is that I can get that same level of support here today, and that other lower tiers in Grey County will also follow suit on this, because at the end of the day, mental health is very important to the job that we do. Thank you, Warden Hicks.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I want to wholeheartedly endorse the notice of motion. I know it's, you know, some people will look at this and say, well, you signed up for the job, suck it up, Buttercup. But the thing is, it's not just us. It affects our families and those around us. So I do believe that there is some need for some support at times, because we, as Councillor Desai said, we do come under a lot of scrutiny, and rightly so. But at times that scrutiny can cross the line into, well, I won't say what the word is, but we all know what that is. But we could use some support at times. So I wholeheartedly endorse the notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Comments from anyone else? Seeing none, and perhaps I will call the question. I keep going to the opposed. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Our guest is not expected until 10:45, so perhaps we take a short break and come back at 10:45 unless the guest is here. Why don't we do that? We'll take a short break. Sorry? Oh, true. Yes, we can do the consent. Why don't we do that then? So we'll deal with item number 5 in the consent agenda. Is there anything in that list that needs to be pulled? Seeing none, then I'm going to ask for a mover, please, to approve the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Burley, seconded by, well, I did see the Deputy Warden first, so sorry. Anyone, oh, sorry, all those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Councillor Compass, I promise I'll get you next. Okay. So why don't we do that then? Because maybe we shouldn't get into the business, or do you want to do that? What is your preference? People want to get into the business or take a timeout? Short timeout? Okay, so we'll come back at 10:45. Okay. Oh, he's just right. Okay, so we are back and we have a delegation from Mr. Trevor Graham talking about speeding concerns on Gray Road 32. Mr. Graham, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity, Warden and members of council, to express to you not only my concerns, but the concerns of my neighbors about the speed limit and the traffic pattern on Gray Road 32. I just want to take 5 or 10 minutes this morning. I apologize in advance. My intent is not to walk you through the 31-page presentation that I sent to you. But the reason in sending you that level of detail was to show to you that we're trying to present this in as factual, non-emotional way as possible. So if I could just maybe have that first map brought up. Maybe just a bit of a backgrounder here for folks. Gray Road 32 is a 9.3 kilometer. There we go.
Mr. Graham, you're welcome to take your mask off if you like while you're speaking. I can hear you, yes. Okay.
Am I okay? Yeah, you're good. It's a 9.3 kilometer connector road between Highway 10 and Gray Road 30. Gray Road 30 being at the top of this map. The 2 dots at the top of the page are a recent change to the speed limit on Gray Road 32, which I believe council dealt with this past summer, where the speed limit has been reduced to 50 kilometers per hour. And on the rest of Gray Road 32, the posted speed limit is 70. And my area of concern in particular today is the area between the 2 red dots, where the posted speed limit is 70, but the suggested speed limit is 50. Now, the problem with this map is you don't see the elevation changes that take place between each of these respective points. When I first took on this task of reviewing the traffic patterns, I was predominantly concerned with the traffic going west to east. And yet in my investigations, I found out that the traffic actually going east, and when I say east, it's actually northeast to west, was actually worse. So maybe if we go to the next map, it can show you in a little bit better detail, which I think is on page 21. If it comes up. So this is primarily the area of concern, and the red dot is really the prime area that I've been focused on. So the traffic coming from west, from Highway 10 north to Gray Road 30 travels at an average speed of 79.8 kilometers per hour. This is as they approach that 90-degree corner. The traffic coming north to west from Gray Road 30 to Highway 10 is traveling at an average speed of 86.6. Now, this was all done through a radar gun purchased on Amazon. As again, the posted speed limit 70, the suggested speed limit is 50, and yet the average speeds of cars and vehicles on this road are nowhere near that limit. 13% of all vehicles coming from Gray Road 30 to Highway 10 are over 90 kilometers an hour with a top speed measured of 106. There was not one vehicle in all the measurements that I made going from 30 to 10 that even did the posted speed limit, never mind the suggested speed limit. I'd ask you to keep in mind 2 things. These are all types of vehicles. These are not only cars, SUVs, these are 53-foot transport trucks. These are cement trucks. These are school buses. These are UPS delivery vehicles. And again, just a reminder, the 3 green dots on that map are horse farms. This road is not only used by vehicles, it's used by pedestrians, it's used by cyclists. It's used by horse-drawn carriage. It's used by farm equipment. And it's used actually by horses who actually walk up and down this road. So the two issues that spin out of this speed on Gray Road 32 is 21% of all vehicles tracked coming down the road from Gray Road 30 to Highway 10 through this corner. 21% of them pass over the center line. Now, that may just be them making an adjustment to make the corner because they see that nobody's coming. But at the end of the day, there have been incidents where people are too far over the road and the others coming the other way have to make an adjustment. The second issue is as they come through the corner, because they've recognized possibly too late that the corner is there and they slow down, they all then speed up as they come out of the corner. And they're actually speeding up in the most heavily populated area of Gray Road 32. So if you look to the left of that red dot, you know, there's 11 residents between that red dot and East Back Line. When I canvassed my neighbors to ask for their support for this ask of council, I was told of a number of stories of pets being killed, drivers and cars ending up on people's front lawn. There were 3 specific incidents of that, I believe, in the last 3 years. And more importantly, the number of near misses as individuals pull in and out of their driveway. The 2 yellow dots that, or sorry, you can just kind of see 3 yellow dots there on that map. If you were to go from left to right on each of those yellow dots, those are hills. And what you're finding is, given the speed of vehicles as they go up and over these hills, there are a number of blind spots. Now, folks, physics was not my strength in school, and I'm not going to pretend to be a physics expert, but here's the issue. If you, and I'm sorry, there are 2 stick-it notes on that map, one of which is folded over, but on either side of that red dot, there's about a 5-second clearance at 70 kilometers an hour as you come around that corner before you hit a driveway. If traffic is doing 70, they can stop in time. However, traffic studies show that it takes the average person 2.5 seconds, 1 second to realize that they have to stop, and 1.5 seconds with which to make that transition to stopping. So of the 5 seconds available to them, 2.5 seconds is recognition. Again, if they're doing the posted, even the posted 70, they can make that stop. However, given the average speeds that people are coming into this corner, there's no way at an average speed of 86 kilometers an hour, they can make that transition if perchance somebody's coming in and out of their driveway. Now, here's where I lose it on the physics end. Okay, any of these stats that I've given you take no consideration into road conditions, the elevation or inclination of the hill, the weight of vehicles. Because again, if a vehicle is twice the weight of an average car, it takes twice as long to stop as it does that car. So given some of the vehicles that are coming down this road, there's no ability for them to stop with these respective blind spots. So it's clear to me, it's clear to my neighbors, hopefully we've made it clear to you that there is an issue waiting to happen at the bottom of this corner. And basically we have 2 asks of council. One is honestly validate our issue. Double check to make sure that what we're telling you is actually the case. In all honesty, if anybody were to stand there for 1 hour, I guarantee you they would walk away with the same revelation that we have. The deputy mayor last November was there for a period of maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And I even think at that time, he was a little bit aghast at the traffic going by and the speeds they were traveling at. Secondly, if you support or you agree with what our findings are, then we're asking for some type of action to be taken. I know these things aren't easy. I know you can post speeds and people don't follow them, but at the end of the day, I think we have to make some type of effort. So we basically have a 4-part ask. One is to reduce the speed limit from East Back Line up to the top of the hill, which I believe is a 1.8 kilometer stretch, to 50 kilometers per hour. Second, we're asking for a four-way stop to be put in at East Back Line and Gray Road 32. It currently is a two-way stop running north-south. It is not a two-way stop east-west. The reason for that ask is we're hoping by putting a stop sign in that A, because traffic have to stop going west to east, the inclination then will not to be speed up as they approach this corner. And B, coming the other direction, they know there's a stop sign coming and there's really no reason to gun it to get out of the corner and approach Highway 10. Thirdly, and I know this one comes with a cost, but we are looking for some type of signage, flashing signage that would hopefully show the speed of people going down the hill relative to the speed at which they're supposed to be traveling. Without 24-hour enforcement, which is ridiculous, I do believe people, as evidenced throughout other areas of the county, when they see these signs telling them how much they're breaking the law by, most people at least slow down somewhat, whether or not they slow down to the respective speed, but at least they do slow down. And lastly, we're asking for some level of enforcement. I appreciate that labor for police is an issue and that there's a ton of other priorities. But unfortunately, there's even locals that blow through this corner. And I think it's important that they understand that even if it was once a month for 3 or 4 hours, that there was some level of police enforcement in this area. That's my pitch. I'm open to any questions if you have them. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graham. I'll turn to council. Are there any questions? Deputy Warden?
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thanks, Trevor, for bringing this forward. I know you and I spoke on the phone last year, and I know this is has been an issue that you've raised more than once. And I want to remind, just in a sense of similarity to this, and I know back in my first term at County Council, I'm going to say about 2013-14, there was a similar situation that was on Gray Road 1. I'm not sure if Pat remembers that. It was when a previous director was here. And it was a delegation came to council with regards to a sharp bend on Gray Road 1. I'm sure maybe Mr. Burley or Ms. Patterson knows that, or Carlton, but there's a spot where there was a sharp bend similar to the same points that you're raising about a sharp bend and concerns of traffic flying off the road, so to speak, as I remember the quote was back then, and I can't remember the delegation that came. But at the end of the day, I know we as county council did reduce that speed in that particular area because of the sharpness in the bend. And I know there was a number of accidents and different things that had been brought forward at that time. So I guess my point just in general to you, Mr. Warden, is I know that sometimes from my experience, I've seen that before and we've done something about that just because of the concern in the community and that area. Certainly, I'm sure as you're yourself, Trevor, that you living there, you witness that. And I certainly take what you're bringing forward to us to heart and thank you for spending the time and doing what you've done. So I guess moving forward, I guess at some time, Mr. Warden, and I guess whether that through you, Madam Clerk, whether that would need a notice of motion or how we move forward with some follow-up direction on this and verifying. I guess the one question I do have through Mr. Warden to our director, do we have, I know we have traffic counters, and I know some of them do measure speed and the type of vehicle. So I just want to verify, do we have that technology that will do the speed and measure the vehicles and time of day? So through you, Mr. Warden, to our director, if that's possible.
Mr. Hoy?
Is it on now? Okay. Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. Yes, we do record traffic counts that were, like you said, Paul records the speed and the type of vehicle, the time of day, et cetera. So we have all that data. The one thing I would say to Mr. Graham, and I thank him for coming here today, we don't dispute his data. We know there's speeding issues there. I think where we disagree is just maybe on the solution. I don't know if you kind of want me to go into talking in some more detail about this, or if we bring it back in a future report, or like we do our speed report every year. That'll probably be in about January. I don't know if you want it brought back. I think we've addressed this area before through that report. But I could speak for a little bit now or whatever you would prefer.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so basically, like I said, I'd like to thank Mr. Graham. I understand this is pretty common for us. People are very concerned about speeders in their area where they live. Speeding is very, very widespread, but we go by our policy. We adhere to that policy. The current policy, the goal of it is to make an appropriate speed at a road in question. It is not to control speeding. Because I think when I look back at traffic complaints or speeding complaints, say, 5 years ago, we'd have about 70 a year speeding complaints. Now we get over 30 per year. So people are very concerned about speeding, and during the pandemic, especially, people are a little more sensitive. People are home. People are speeding more, it seems like. And to the credit of people that are very concerned about speeding in their area, it doesn't stop at a complaint. So they make a complaint and we go through our policy and we say, oh, the posted speed is appropriate. And it doesn't stop there. You keep, people that are very upset about speeding are very adamant that it needs to be changed. And then it comes all the way eventually up to this level, which is their right to do so. But typically what we find, same as most presentations and notes we get, there's a basic flaw in a lot of them in that, it's everybody's speeding. It's posted 70, everybody's going 80, so it should be 50. So if, the basic kind of counterintuitive thing is people aren't following the sign at 70, they're not going to follow it at 50. Like that is just, unfortunately, until there's a cultural shift, in North American driving, that just seems to be the way it is. And I just wanted to bring up something, as we recently had with 17B, not to muddy the picture, I know this is about 32, but that, on our policy where we said 17B in that one area is supposed to be a 60, and we did a bunch of traffic data, and then we did a bunch once it got changed to 50. So this is not a controlled experiment because we paved the road in between. So there's always probably that little bit of, people love kind of zipping along a newly paved road. So it does kind of muddy the picture a bit that way. But the traffic counts we did before on 17B, when it was 60 and when it was 50, the average speed went up from 65.5 to 66. The 85th percentile speed which 85% of traffic is going below that, went from 73 to 75. Obviously, the percent of speeders went up because it went from 74 to 96, just because we lowered the speed limit and people are going the same speed. Basically, everybody's speeding, and the car volume went up as well. So, again, school started. It wasn't going before. There might be issues there, but it shows our frustration too. It's really hard to control what people are going to drive. And just to give a bit of background, we had lowered the speed on 119 and 32. After construction, we had lowered it to 60 for a while. We've learned quite a bit about speed posting since 2018, but that was the most calls we ever got. People were really, really angry in that area that speed was lowered. They feel comfortable driving 70, or obviously they feel comfortable driving about 85, but they didn't want to slow it down. People weren't adhering to it. It just seemed, we were just kind of wasting our time. So we marked it back up on 119 and on 60 and on 32. Now there is some areas, the areas of concern, we've left a warning sign. Of course, you can't get a ticket on a warning sign for the speed. The same as on a ramp going onto the, on the 400 or something. It tells you shouldn't be going 80 on that ramp. There's not necessarily posted speed. It's usually a warning sign, just to tell you this is kind of what this curve is designed for. You should slow down. So one thing I just wanted to talk about very briefly is just, and you might not all be aware, but we're in two groups to stop stunt driving because it's such an epidemic. Especially it started in the peninsula basically, but there's a group from Flesherton to Wyerton and then a group from Wyerton north. So that group includes the OPP, Peel is involved, MTO, United Way, public health is involved. There's some health professionals like from Windsor and Sarnia involved. and it's trying to stop stunt driving. And we hadn't had a lot of success till this year. Apparently it's dropped, stunt driving charges are down about 50%. But it was such a multi-pronged attack. Like it was increased enforcement. Even they did, they're doing plane monitoring in the peninsula now. Very severe penalties, very, very severe penalties for stunt driving. They've all been bumped up. There's a lot of signage posted on the route. There was we even did a Facebook campaign targeting people specifically that were driving from Peel to Tobermory, for example. So it was coming up on their phone. And one thing we had a big talk with MTO about is there's different ways to convince people to stop speeding, I guess. It seems like we seem to have some success with going with the bottom line that we're taking your car, they're taking your license, and you're not getting it back for 30 days. Someone could get killed. I don't know if it's the feeling that youth are invulnerable or whatever it is. It didn't seem to have the effect of putting it in their pocket that this is going to cost you $5,000 or $10,000 and your car is going to be gone. So I just feel like it's almost like we need a culture change somehow, and it's bigger than Grey County. It's bigger than Ontario probably. And until that happens, it's hard for us to just pick kind of random outliers where people are concerned about speed, because people are literally concerned about speed everywhere, and just have a bunch of little roads that don't adhere to our policy. It just creates a problem, because then the other people want to know, well, why isn't mine? Or why maybe somebody does a better presentation. I mean, not every presentation has as much data as this one does. And I commend Mr. Graham on how much data is in here. Like there's a lot of work going on here, and it's valid work. It's just, I'm afraid if, we start just randomly lowering speeds based on single requests, even from a group really, because everyone wants to speed down in their area, but they don't want it down when they're driving somewhere. So that's just kind of where we stand on it. When the report comes back again, we could address this issue again when the 4788 report comes back, as we do with all our speed complaints. And then wherever it goes from there, that's for this committee to decide. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Councilor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, through you to our director, Todd Hoy. Thanks for that explanation and report. I know as I referred back to my experience here on County Council back, I think I'd say 2012 to 2013. It was because it was Mike Kelly was here at the time, Director Kelly. And I know that was the issue of lowering the speed, but the one similar point to this one, it was on a sharp bend. And I'm not really good in physics myself, but I think there's a word called inertia, that if you're going this way and you try to move it, it's wanting you to keep going straight. And I think that's probably the more the concern here as I see this is, you can't help it. If people are going faster or going past that recommended speed, you have a tendency to drift, especially if you're on the inside lane. So I know that time on Grey Road 1, I'm not sure if my colleagues from Georgia Bluff are quite familiar with that, but there is a section in County Council did pass that, and it was, I think, quite successful on that. I know through our director, I know we've had complaints or concerns when we reconstructed that road of, yes, making it too slow and people want to get to where they want to go and stuff like that. But I will say this morning on my way here today, I've made this drive for a while. Certainly in August, we passed one of the motions to lower the speed in Kimberley from 50 to 40, maybe it was 60 to 40, and the approaching parts was 60. I drove through that this morning, and you know what? Yeah, it probably took me an extra minute to get here, but you know what? That extra minute, I think, was well worth it for that particular reason, what we're trying to achieve here. So I'll leave it at that, but I think there is some merit to taking a good look at this just because of the sharp bend. I don't know if we're debating speed, but I see our mayor from Blue Mountains last year with regards to Highway 26 and reducing that speed. There is merit, I think, on that, and you see a lot more lowering to 40. I know our first go around was in the village of Dundalk, and we lowered to 40. There's reasons why that, and we see that, and we make those choices as county council. Nothing against staff and their recommendations, and because county road system is to move people through the county. That's what it's designed for. And we've had presentations here or delegations here before about, keeping trucks off our county roads. Well, they're there to move traffic as well. So we have to find that balance, no doubt. But I think this has some merit to be looking at, and I guess I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Warden. I guess other than a notice of motion, or do we look at it? We receive this as a delegation today, and then we can address it from there further on. I guess I seek your guidance, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. Director Hoy noted that staff standard practice is that when speeding complaints come in, they do get captured in a report that is coming up on 4788, which is the county's traffic bylaw. So that is coming forward in the new year. So that is staff standard practice, is to take those complaints and review those and include them in the report that's upcoming. So I think with council's indulgence, staff can take that back and include that in the upcoming report.
Just 1 second, Mr. Graham. I just wonder if there's any other questions from council before I go back to you. Seeing none, go right ahead, sir.
Make a comment. I totally agree that we need a culture change. I totally agree that posting a sign is not going to change everything overnight. And I lived through the change of 70 to 60 on Gray Road 32. But west of East Back Line, it's dead straight. So as you come off Highway 10, where supposedly you're doing 80, if not 90, if not more, it does seem overly slow doing 60. Again, our issue about this particular area, and thank you for the word inertia, Mr. McQueen, it's really the safety factor. It's about the corner. And I'm not naive. I know that if we make it 50, we're probably going to drop the average speed from 86 to 70. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'd probably be happy with that. Because from an engineering perspective, I believe the road is engineered for 70 kilometers to even make that corner. But that's not taking into effect or the houses, the traffic, and the speed. So again, I appreciate whatever council can do for us, and I'll leave it in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to present to us, Mr. Graham. Okay, council. Back to our agenda. We are at item 7A. We're dealing with the Georgian College nursing program donation. I'm looking for a mover to put the item. Moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor O'Leary. Our CAO is going to take the floor.
Good morning, Council. This report is coming forward as recommended by the Healthcare Funding Task Force, and the presentations made by Dr. Mary-Lynn Westmoyne and her colleagues from Georgian College, both to that task force and also the delegation that appeared before this council on September the 23rd. Grey County has played an important advocacy role in making the case to the province that the colleges should have the ability to grant four-year BSCN degrees. And as we all know, forecasts show that health human resources are in a critically short supply at this phase, and that is forecast only to become more acute in the future. Having a program close to home means placements can be in our facilities rather than larger urban centers, and we have a better chance of securing new grads in our healthcare facilities. A local program is also more accessible to our residents looking to upgrade their skills. And in the specific situation of this program at the Owen Sound and Barrie campuses, both Grey Bruce Health Services and Collingwood General Marine Hospital have provided very strong letters of support to Georgian College to move this program forward. Since Mary-Lynn was here, the province has given the college approval for their curriculum, so there are no other roadblocks in place to moving forward with the program accepting students beginning in the fall of 2022. So while the province has given approval and they will fund the program's operations, as we heard, the capital costs to get the program up and running are the responsibility of the college. Owen Sound campus will see a 9,200 square foot renovation to create state-of-the-art simulation labs and training spaces. And that renovation is estimated to cost about $7.1 million. Georgian has begun a public fundraising campaign, and in their visit to us, asked the county to support them for $1 million towards that total project cost. In this report, staff are suggesting that the funds that Georgian has requested could be drawn from our healthcare funding reserve. We currently have in excess of $1 million in that reserve. We put away 0.5% annually into the reserve. So at the present time, that's somewhere around $360,000. We are currently looking at a policy through that healthcare funding task force to understand going forward into the future what an appropriate level of contribution might be to a future reserve, as well as the kinds of projects that we might want to support if we think that there's maybe some more clarity that's required there. But where we are today, we do have the resources in that reserve should council wish to support Georgian's ask and feel that that's an appropriate location for the funds to be drawn from. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Madam CAO. Councillor Soever.
Look, there we go. So I'm just wondering, where are we with that policy? We started this committee in 2019, and the goal was to have a policy as to what kind of projects and how much money we should be putting aside. And now we have a fairly major request, which, if funded from the reserves, would basically deplete the reserve. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here. I think I really support the nursing school project. I think it's a great project, but in the context of all the other asks for healthcare funding, and without having a policy, which we hope to have a few years ago, I think it's kind of like making a decision without having a framework of what the other potential asks are. And, should it be limited to capital projects? Is it operational? We don't really know that because we don't have a policy. So where are we with the policy?
Through you, Mr. Warden. Councillor Soever is correct that we did initiate the task force some time ago. I'm sorry that COVID wasn't foreseen at that time, and the people that we wanted to hear from in order to create the policy, we felt that many of them were very, very busy attending to the requirements of COVID within their own organizations. And so we put some of the task force work on hold. We have a meeting scheduled this month to hear from the final 3 stakeholders that we'd originally committed to speaking with. So I am still very committed to getting a report back in front of this council after we have that meeting, so that we can, with a draft policy for your consideration. As far as other asks, while some of our delegates or some of our stakeholders have certainly indicated to us that they have plans in the future, I am not aware of any specific ask at this time, looking for resources in an immediate time frame. as I say, we still have one more meeting to go. That could change, but as it stands right now, I'm not aware of anything specific. We just fulfilled our commitments to the Markdale Hospital. We have recently completed commitments to Grey Bruce Health Services.
Councillor Robinson? Sorry, Councillor Soever, were you finished?
It's good to know that we're making progress.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to our Grey County CAO. I'm very, very pleased that this report has come forward. And I do note that Grey County was very active in the advocacy for bringing a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing to Grey County and understanding the success of that diligence to bring the program here to Owen Sound as one of the first programs in Central Ontario. So I do want to say well done for that. Well done for everyone involved in that, going back to all the delegations with Roma and AMO meeting with the Minister of Health. This is a very good support document, and the idea of Grey County supporting the request, I think is incredibly important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Milne?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And I note that in the past, this fund has been used, or at least the funds, the health or the 0.5% funds have been used in the past for other health-related projects. What is it in the Owen Sound Hospital? The MRI, yes, we've helped support that project, and we've also supported the med studies, the marine emergency duties at Georgian College. So we have a very good track record supporting very worthy projects at Georgian and in the rest of the county. And I think it's important, quite frankly, if we're going to support bricks and mortar, the bricks and mortar are no good unless you've got the bodies to get the job done. And we have a critical shortage of health professionals right across the province, if not the country at the moment. So anything we can do to support generating more health professionals at home, I think we need to support. So I fully support this this initiative, and this report is very well taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and to you, Madam CEO. Yeah, certainly for full support of supporting this program. I thought the Markdale Hospital did come back for a little bit of an ask over above what we gave. I thought they came in May or June, did they not? Because I know they're going to a lot of the municipalities that are asking for a little bit more above what was. Now, I know they came to County Council, did a presentation, but I thought they did ask for the idea of a little bit, because I know they're going around lower municipalities and they're asking for a little bit just to top up, because the campaign was over 20 years and some of those original donors maybe aren't with us anymore. So just as a background thing. And certainly, what is that 0.5? How much is that roughly a year? I didn't see it in the report. What does that equate to? What's that 0.5?
I can't get there. I was suggesting about 360,000. Yeah, and I believe that there was some minor adjustment, if I can call it that, to Markdale when we completed our transfer to them.
And I know there is maybe some asks on the horizon, but if we have that 0.5, we're generating 360, well, that's still going to replenish that fund, and I'm happy to hear that part. And certainly, yeah, moving forward with that policy will be good too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, sorry, Councillor Klumpus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden, and good morning, County Council. My first opportunity to say that. I fully support this program going forward. I'm very excited about the possibilities that this has for many facets of need in our community throughout Grey County. not the least of which is nursing and the education of nurses close to home. Speaking with the CEO of Grey Bruce Health Services last week, he was absolutely convinced that he would sweep up all of those nurses that were graduated within a minute, within a heartbeat. So there's lots of room there for new nursing students to come in. But I'm also excited about this because of the opportunity for an influence on other allied healthcare professionals, such as personal care workers and others who will benefit from the learnings that will be available in the lab work and the experiences that will be available through this program. It's a marvelous program. I fully support it and fully congratulate Kim and with all of the work that's been done to pull this together.
Thank you. Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. And I completely agree and support this request. You know, with the aging number of nurses that we've got in our healthcare sector right now, we need to get some new people qualified, and to do that locally, a lot of those people probably will remain in our area. So it's, you know, very important. I hope that the hospital doesn't recruit all of them, because long-term care certainly needs some. And I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get some. So this is an opportunity that we can't let go, and we need to support it in every way we can. And I do hope that there will be other valid requests come along, and we'll be able to address those when they do come. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mackey. Councillor Desai.
Thank you. Thank you, Warden Hicks. Councillor Mackey raises an interesting point on the students from this program remaining in the community. I know Grey County staff along with Georgian College has programs where we focus on international students and trying to keep them in the community. Is there a possibility, or perhaps is there a need to see if there is is there a need for a program where we focus on medical sciences students or PSWs for students, for example, who we need in our community? And if we're offering programs at local institutions, is there a need for a program that also looks at creating an experience for them where they are more likely to remain within the community after they've graduated from the program?
Madam CAO, are you able to speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Warden. Thank you for that question, Councillor Desai. Just this week, our Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Culture, and I met again with Georgian College, not only to discuss international students and the practical nurse. This was in reference to the practical nursing program, but you know, what can and should be done to facilitate those students being able to have the best experiences that they can in their in-service training, on-site training at the various healthcare institutions. Can we assist, since many of them won't have vehicles and transportation is a challenge? Are there things that can be done to ensure that the students are getting to their placements back and forth and really have an opportunity to experience a breadth of healthcare sector jobs? So I'm optimistic and hopeful that we will see some further announcements on that front as we work together to find solutions.
Very good. I do not see any other hands, so perhaps it's time to call the question. On the motion to receive this report and to approve the contribution as recommended, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam CAO. Okay, we're moving on to item 7B, dealing with a natural snow fence and crop snow fence program. Is it going to be Jim or you, Pat? It's going to be Jim. Okay, Jim, you're on deck. I'm looking for a mover to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Burley, seconded by the Deputy Warden. Looking for Jim.
Sorry about that. I had to rejoin as a participant. So today I'm here to present the report and policy on not using natural snow fence, either through trees or corn crop. And we're asking that this report be received and the policy be endorsed. We're also asking that staff be directed to develop the agreements for both the tree and corn crop program, along with the clerk's department. We're also asking that since these are going to be rather small agreements, small dollar value agreements, that the Director of Transportation be given approval to sign them and that the delegation be included in the next update. We're also we're asking that staff be able to go out now and talk to farmers about using their corn crop for snow hedge. So any questions?
Councillor Mackey, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I'm just wondering, based on the current crop prices, are we confident that the amount that we're willing to contribute towards the farmer will compensate them fully for the loss of that 12 rows of corn?
Right. I'm not 100% sure, but we're requesting, we're suggesting that we give a 50% premium on the current corn price. So where we'd have an acre corn would be 1,023 as of yesterday's corn price, we'd be paying 1,535. So that's in line with Peel and Dufferin. Simcoe pays by the input and cash price or December future price for corn. And they are around 50% this year. It varies for Simcoe because they go on the input and the futures price. So this year Simcoe is around 50% as well, premium. I don't know if it's enough to interest farmers or not. That's the question. I guess we'll find out when we get out and talk to people. And farmers on council I just want to ask farmers on council that know more about the inconvenience of harvesting corn that's been up all winter. Maybe the 50% doesn't cover that, but we're hoping that will be. Sorry.
Deputy Warden McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you to the report. Thank you for bringing the report forward. Certainly, corn planting would work for those that are cash croppers, but maybe a beef farmer or whatever, or others that don't do as much cropping, it may not work as well. The question I want to ask is with regards to the tree snow fence. Generally, that row would have to be probably 20 meters, 30 meters back from the edge of the road to make it to benefit what we're trying to achieve here. I'm trying to think of that program that you sit on, Mr. Warden. It just escapes me where they pay farmers to take land out of production, but they pay for that. I'm trying to think of that acronym.
Alice?
Alice, yes, Alice. So I just wonder if we could investigate to get maybe like the tree planting is the best bet, because then it's not like we have that on Gray Road 7, right? On near Gray Road 49. I think it's been quite successful. I just wondered, other than a lot of farmers take out fence rows, but it has been proven that fence rows do keep moisture and do keep topsoil, like you put in your report. I keep looking at Pat, but I should be looking up the screen here. But I just wondered if there's a little bit more, if it could be investigated across the provinces, or even the provinces looking at the natural snow fence. I just think that there needs to be a little bit of an incentive for the farmers to plant those trees. And Alice is a good example where they pay for that land to come out of protection, because with the cost of farming today and high cost of farming, the efficiencies is in volume, right, and all that type of thing. So, but I just wondered if through that program, or if there's other counties, other jurisdictions in the province, or even across North America, are using some other incentives. And I use the one Alice as an example. So I don't know, that could be investigated. Maybe you, Mr. Warden, you sit on that committee, if that could be asked or whatever. I just think that just to create that little bit of incentive goes a long way. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So through you, Mr. Warden, we're planning on doing GPSing all the snow drifting areas and getting a sort of a dollar value for county council to determine what it would cost to plant everything in trees. So it's probably the first step that we're going to do, and then we'll come back with that. And then longer term, if council wants to pay similar to the loss of crop for corn, then we can look at that as well.
Anything further, Deputy Warden?
No, I just think it's a great way of, I mean, I think you captured a little bit in the report where you've seen places where you do not have that. Well, 124 coming up from Shelburne is a perfect example where you have areas where there's trees and all of a sudden it's wide open. The insurance costs, the maintenance costs, I think, for example, on that stretch of road, Dufferin, I mean, they had to go out and buy their own snowblower just to keep the roads black because of the wind, right? And certainly there's all the other advantages of moisture loss and topsoil. It's so beneficial to create those natural snow fences that, and it takes time. It takes time, and I see that on Gray Road 7 how it's been very effective in other areas, and we got to get there. It's just how do we get there, and maybe we have to be creative. But I think it's so important as you identify those areas that need to be done. But on the other side, the economies of scale for cash cropping that they're taking the snow fences, or they're taking the trees out, they're taking all that stuff out because it's all about, big equipment and all that kind of stuff. So we just got to find that sweet spot that works, that we achieve all, and we move forward. And maybe there's recognition to those farmers that do it. Maybe there's some award, or maybe there's a out for dinner. I don't know. There's just something that gives them that incentive that they feel good about what they're doing. I don't know. I always thought that from Shelburne to Singhampton would be a great way to create a trail system that you secure that land, you plant the trees, you create a trail system, and you also create a corridor for animals. And we talk about climate change and all that stuff too. So maybe there's a lot of win-wins that we can sort of work on just as keep moving forward. But keep up the good work on that part. Thank you.
Will do.
Thank you, Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Warden Hicks. The one question that I do have is that if we're not getting, I should have remained seated. If we're not getting farmers to sign up for this program based on the prices that are in the suggested policy, will staff be coming back to council to make amendments to that policy, or is that something that will be included in the delegation of duties?
Mr. Nicol?
I think we'll have to come back and discuss it with council. Right now, as I said, we're proposing the 50%, but if we don't get buy-in, then we'll have to bump it up a bit. So we'll do that in the spring. We'll be back in the spring to talk about how successful this program was for the corn, and update council on the tree program.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. As Councillor McQueen pointed out, when you plant trees or a windbreak in your field, it does create a microclimate close to those trees. So you do benefit from a bit more yield from that. The other question I had was for Jim was, have you approached the province? Maybe they could pitch some money into this, because anytime you leave crop out, the Queen's livestock benefits, and maybe the province would like to pitch a little money into the pot to feed their livestock. Just a thought. Thank you.
Look into that.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I find this a most interesting initiative, and certainly from a climate lens perspective, looking at natural barriers. So most interesting, certainly support the report and the recommendations. And I would only ask that perhaps this could be shared with the lower tier infrastructure and public works departments, and maybe there could be more of an initiative at lower tier level that can connect with Grey County as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Gamble.
Yes, Councillor McQueen brought up an issue there. I have, coming from a farm community, I don't see this corn idea really working out that well. It might in some instances, but to my way of thinking, the tree line is the best, and a double row tree line would definitely be the right way to go with this. That's my suggestion.
Anything to add to that, Jim?
Well, Simcoe County's been doing this for a few years, and they only have between 6 and 8 participants, depending on crop rotation. So I don't know how much they're advertising the project, but yeah, we'll go through and try to do our best effort to get corn rows as snow hedge. But I think that's right, to use trees as a long-term benefit, whether we go to a single row versus the double row that the county's been using to minimize the impact on the amount of crop that's lost. So there's lots to discuss.
Okay, I do not see any other hands, so perhaps it's time to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? And is there anyone, sorry, I should be taking it a little bit more slowly, I'm told. And is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going next to item 7C, dealing with Southgate Meadows Plateau. I need a mover to put the item on the floor. Oh, Councilor Wood, you called him before me. Councilor Woodbury and Councilor Keaveney is seconding. Go ahead, Randy.
Great. Good morning, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to consider a proposed county official plan amendment in the township of Southgate. It proposes to designate a portion of lands adjacent to the settlement area Dundalk from rural and hazard lands to primary settlement area and hazard lands. This official plan would allow for the consideration of a proposed plan of subdivision application known as Southgate Meadows Plateau Glenelg Phase 2. I think Rob's going to pull up the presentation for the in a second here. I'll show you the subject lands. So we're just on slide 2, Rob. Excellent. Thanks for that. So the subject lands are described as part of lots 225 and 226, concession 2, southwest of the Toronto-Sydenham Road, and the geographic township of Proton, township of Southgate. The lands are approximately 18.4 hectares in size. However, the actual area proposed for development is less than half that size. The subject lands are currently vacant, with a portion of the subject lands used for agricultural purposes and a portion containing woodlands and hazard lands. And that's the portion that you can see on the kind of the west side of that property. North of subject lands is the county CP rail trail. So you can see the rail trail running right above the area there, as well as some vacant agricultural lands. And then east and south of subject lands are residential uses, including the approved phase 1 for this overall plan development. West of the subject lands include agriculture uses, residential uses, and some vacant lands. This proposed development also requires a local official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment, in addition to the plan of subdivision application, which will be dealt with in a future staff report. Access to the proposed residential units will be through an existing draft approved plan of subdivision known as Southgate Meadows Plateau Glenelg Phase 1, which is currently under construction as we speak. The proposed plan would connect to Corbett Street and Atchison Avenue as part of that first phase of development. There will be additional internal roads that will be constructed to provide access to the proposed lots. Servicing will be via municipal water and sewer services, which would be allocated by the township of the town at time of final approval for each phase. The township is actively working on environmental assessments and upgrades to expand their services in order to accommodate the projected growth for the settlement area Dundalk. The servicing matters will be dealt with as part of the recommended conditions of draft approval in the future staff report. Next slide, Rob. So I apologize for the size of it, but this shows the plan of subdivision application, which proposes to create a total of 155 residential units, 83 single attached units, 66 townhouses, and 6 partial lots. And as mentioned, this will be dealt with in a future staff report. Next slide, Rob. So in terms of the public comments received, we held a joint public meeting with the township back in January 27th of this year. We received one comment supporting both phases of the development, and they're hoping that the sewer services will be extended all the way down Glen Elk Street in order for them to be able to connect in the future. Township staff will investigate that option in the future. With respect to another comment we received regarding potential impact from this development on the existing residents on Doyle Street, the CP Rail Trail acts as a divider between the homes on Doyle Street and the planned development. So any potential impact on the east side of the rail trail from the proposed development should be minimal and should only occur during construction. And there were no further comments received from the public. Next slide, please, Rob. So in terms of agency comments received, so again, majority of the comments received are more applicable to the plan of subdivision application, which will be dealt with in a future staff report. However, just to summarize some of those comments we have received from the Historic Saugeen Métis, Eastlink, and Hydro One, they had no objection. Canada Post said they would be delivering via a community mailbox. Enbridge requires conditions of draft approval for easements in order to service the development. Bell Canada requires the same. Grand River Conservation Authority, they deferred to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority for comments because the proposed development is primarily within their watershed. Next slide, Rob. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, they reviewed the applications. They noted they're acceptable to SVCA staff. They provided some recommended conditions of draft approval, which will be considered in that future staff report. And they also recommended that the OPAs, the official plan amendments and zoning amendments reflect the updated mapping identified in the environmental impact study for both the hazard lands and the other wetlands. And those have been incorporated into the proposed revised schedules that are attached to the official plan amendment that's before committee of the whole today. Southgate Public Works Department, they noted that this will need to be serviced by municipal water, sewer, and stormwater services. No road widening is required. And they noted that it's within a wellhead protection area, Zone D, which is applicable to what they call DNAPL products. And those are managed by education and outreach programs. And Township of Southgate, staff presented a report to Township Council on September 15th. And Township Council passed a motion supporting the proposed county official plan amendment to expand the settlement area of Dundas at this location. Next slide, please, Rob. Just a quick summary of the planning analysis. There was an environmental impact study that was done for the applications. The EIS recommended some mapping revisions, which have been incorporated, as I mentioned. The SVCA also identified some recommended conditions which will be recognized in the future conditions of draft approval. In terms of protection of agricultural resources, so the subject lands are designated as rural in the county official plan today. There was an agricultural impact assessment that was completed. And although the comment from that assessment noted that there would be a permanent loss of 8.7 hectares of rural land, the impacts on the surrounding agricultural operations in the study area will be negligible and can be mitigated. And some of those mitigation measures will be considered as part of the recommended conditions of draft approval. In terms of the appropriate location of growth and development, so when we expand a settlement area, it requires what's called a comprehensive review. And that was submitted with the applications in accordance with the provincial policy statement, county plan, and the township official plan. And the comprehensive review analysis reviewed basically the current land supply available to accommodate the future growth, identified what's currently planned and approved for developments within Dundalk, and also analyzed the growth projections within our current official plan, as well as those recently supported by council in terms of the updated growth management study. Based on the comprehensive review analysis, it also analyzed the potential locations for where an expansion could occur around the village of settlement area of Dundalk. And basically, the comprehensive review analysis concluded that this was the appropriate location for future growth. It is a natural extension of the phase 1 of this overall plan development. And so they recommended that this is the preferred location. County staff and township staff have reviewed that comprehensive review document, and we agree with the conclusions and therefore recommend that OPA 6 be approved. So the recommendation is before committee of the whole, basically recommending that the official plan amendment number 6 be approved and that the bylaw be prepared for consideration by council at the next council meeting. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Randy. I do not see any hands. So with that said, I think we'll call the question. All those in favor? And is there, sorry, I'm moving too quickly again. And is there anyone opposed? Then that's carried. Thank you very much, Randy. I think we can keep moving, can we, Madam Clerk? Yes, good. Okay, we'll move on to item 7D. The Service System Manager Consortium Agreement. I believe this is going to be Melissa. Okay. Melissa, I'm going to call for a mover to put the item on the floor. Moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Clumpus. I got you this time. All right, you have the floor.
There we go. There we go. Good morning, Mr. Warden and members of council. The purpose of this report is to seek authorization to enter into a consortium agreement with Stratford, Bruce, and Huron counties to pursue the next phase of our employment services transformation, and that's to become a service system manager for the area. We have brought forward some previous reports outlining the province's plans to transform employment services. And this is to ensure that job seekers and businesses are provided with the best possible employment services in the area. The transformation is to bring together several employment programs, including Ontario Works, ODSP, and Employment Ontario, into one system that will be managed by the service system manager for that particular area. The municipal service managers in Bruce County, Grey, Huron, and Stratford have been working together to be the new organization for our area. The consortium will represent our economic region as defined by the Ministry of Labor, Training and Skills Development. The group was successful in the step 1 request for quotation process. That was a report that was brought forward in July. And we were determined to be a qualified applicant among several private sector companies. Some of them are even international companies from the US and UK that are qualified to apply. We are now in a position to know that we're not competing with any of our local service system providers. They did not have the capacity to compete and become a service system manager. So we won't be competing against anyone local such as the Y or VPI. It was through much discussion and visioning that we began to see a role for ourselves as a consortium under the new system. The lead applicant for the purpose of the consortium is Bruce County. And we must, as a group, submit a copy of a contractual agreement between the consortium members to the ministry prior to executing the transfer payment agreement with the ministry. So we're a little bit early in the process with having the agreement ready, but we felt it was important to have the consortium contractual agreement, at least in a draft position, to demonstrate responsible governance and good faith among the members as we are going forward in the planning process. So the draft agreement is here today. It'll be going forward to each one of the councils that are part of the consortium. And we are seeking authorization to enter into a consortium agreement with Stratford, Bruce, and Huron, and to pursue the next phase of employment services transformation through the submission of a call for proposal to become a service system manager for the area.
Thank you very much. Barb, is there anything you wish to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Melissa did a great job of explaining that. It's been a quick process for us. Collaborating with our partners has been an exciting venture. We hope that we move this forward, and we'd like to be able to bring back some exciting news for you. It's a very quick turnaround time. I think it's November 5th that we have to have this completed and submitted to the province. So lots on our plate right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Turn it to council. Any questions from council? Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Question I have is, will this service agreement, if it goes forward, have any impact on our staffing levels here in Grey County?
Who would, were you looking for me, Mr. Milne? I'll start. I'll just speak a little bit to the conversation, and then I'll pass it back to Melissa, who has some further in-depth knowledge. We do know that if we aren't the successful service system manager, we are looking at we're looking at resource reallocation. Some of our staff are providing these roles in our various offices now in the four service manager areas, the 4 counties. And so it's very important for us to be able to continue with this. The other piece for us that's important is that we have that local vision and we're connected with our local community partners. We know we do it really well. We collaborate. Having someone come in from outside, especially an international company, not as connected to the work we do, some of the nuances for the 4 rural municipalities. And so our concerted efforts now are to maintain some of that that connection, that control, that ability to be able to respond locally and build that capacity with each other. So I would say that we could lose some, if we aren't successful, we definitely could see some changes with staffing. I don't know, Melissa, if you have anything to add to that.
Bruce County as the lead, it's expected that they would probably gain a role, they would have the administrative funding as the lead of the consortium. So it's not expected that we would have any additional staff roles. If anything, we'll have less because the Ontario Works program won't have their employment support funding.
Go ahead, Councillor Milne.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. And that was the nature of my question. Are some of our staff, are their positions threatened by if this agreement goes forward with Bruce, Huron, and Stratford? And how will we mitigate that?
Madam CAO.
Is that better? Okay. Through you, Mr. Warden. I think one of the challenges that we face right now is that, as the staff have indicated, it's early days. And we don't have all of the details around exactly, I think, what the expectations are of the province about the levels of service and the targets that will need to be met. In the financial section, the financial and resources section of the report, it does speak to the fact that the system service manager, this new role, will be in part funded on a pay for performance model. If I have to have, as your CAO, if I have to have a concern about that, it's that pay for performance and municipal budgets don't always go hand in hand. So, I mean, Barb and her team and her colleagues are very active at the table We're paying close attention here and I think raising concerns like that where we can. But I think it's important for this council to realize that, there is that potential depending on the targets, depending on how far ahead the funding is set and where the economy goes, because sometimes forecasts and reality don't always 100% align. So that there are lots of things to think about here, but I think until we understand exactly what that funding model looks like, it's very difficult, I think, to say with a real certainty exactly how this could play out for us.
Good enough, Councillor? No?
That's good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I guess with some uncertainty, are we confident that this will provide better service to the clients?
I'll take a stab at that first. So again, thank you for the question. Kim is absolutely correct. We're still very early days. And we do think, though, that the collaborative approach with the local responsive partnerships is the way to go. We've seen 3 prototypes across the province. We've seen one that was with certainly a large international company. So it's private partnerships. We've seen university and college-led experiences, and certainly and then a varied approach in between those two. And it's relationships that are really making the difference. And when you can have conversations that respond locally to your economy and the labor shortages and the challenges that are taking place, the people who are in need of assistance but perhaps have transportation, all those pieces that are different than in an urban setting, I think that we would see a stronger system. And so that's one of the reasons that we wanted to move forward with this collaboration. We have so many reasons to support one another, where we have so many consistent components within our rural municipalities, and the fact that we are able to be nimble and we can respond quickly when needed to, when there's a change in our economy. I don't know, Melissa, if there's anything else you want to add.
From what we've heard, there wasn't a great deal of interest in our area because we're such a large catchment area, if you can imagine, between Stratford all the way up to the tip of the Bruce Peninsula. And then when you consider the population size and the demographic, that the competition isn't really focused on this area. So there was some fear there. I would say that our service providers could be at risk of, a large private sector coming in without a good understanding. And there also just wasn't a great deal of competition. It didn't appear for this area. So that definitely influenced our decision to start moving forward with this idea.
Good, Councillor Mackey. Madam CAO.
If I can just add to what Melissa and Barb have said, I mean, the whole purpose of this is to do a better job of getting people who aren't currently active in the labor market, getting them jobs. So I think there's a coming together of the life stabilization aspect of things that we know will continue to be part of social services, no matter what happens with this. It's housing, it's public health, it's getting people into the labor market. And those are all things that are really, central and core to the work that the county does all the time. So certainly from that perspective, the more intimate knowledge that we have coming out of this to feed into things like economic development, to talk to partners like Georgian College who are going to provide training, et cetera. You can, that's where I see we can play a really important role in all of this because we do understand our market and we do have some levers that we can pull as we start to so you're going to have trouble as we see these changes happening. And if we're going to be on the front end of knowing how successful we are in getting people placed under a new model, we can also understand as early as possible in the process what else needs to happen. And similar to another conversation we had today, take an advocacy role with the province if something's not working well. I'm so sorry.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and just really listening to the full conversation here, both from staff and County Council, based on also what our CAO has just said. Are there key performance indicators for this new model, which will show that we're going in the right path, or that there may be some adjustments that need to be made? Thank you.
Tara?
Yes, there is. I have a package here. It's called the Performance Management Framework and Key Performance Indicators. It's an addendum to it's a 122-page proposal. The call for proposal is 122 pages of weighted scored system to make sure that you're meeting a technical and commercial envelopes, the province, and then this is an addendum. And I'm not really sure where to start with it for you. We could certainly provide you some more detail. It's hard to summarize because it's very detailed, but it's very weighted, and it certainly hones in on we must work with many groups such as Indigenous clients served, youth with higher support needs. Then there's streams of clients based on their employability. There's stream A, B, C. Things are weighted. Your performance is weighted based on what stream people are in. There's a whole system for how you determine what stream that they're in. And Francophone, general population of clients with disabilities, ODSP clients, Ontario Works clients. That's just to name a few. But I mean, that's most of them. But
Thank you, Tara. I don't think I see any other hands. Oh, Councillor Robinson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. And just knowing the detail in terms of key performance appraisals and the metrics for identifying whether, just in terms of the overall program. So noting that there is that addendum to it, I'm very pleased with the response. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Seeing no further hands, I think it's time to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Have I waited long enough now? This time, sorry, you can take your hands down. Is there anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much, Melissa and Barb. Barb, I think you're still on deck. Is Tara going to be joining you?
I believe she will be. I believe she's there.
Okay. All right, so we're dealing with 7E, the childcare sector status update. Moved by, I'm going to say Councillor Carlton, seconded by, I saw you, Councillor Mackey, but I'm going to say Councillor Gamble because he kind of twitched. Okay, so Tara, you have the floor. Tara, you'll need to press your green button.
Great, sorry about that. Good morning, Mr. Warden and County Council. We're bringing forward an information report to you today to ensure Council is aware of the current pressures being faced by the childcare sector within Grey County. Quality licensed childcare is critical to supporting our workforce strategies. And as in many sectors, staffing shortages are limiting the operational capacities of our licensed childcare programs in Grey County. In addition to the local staffing shortage, there's a shortage of registered ACEs across the province. Currently, the local licensed childcare programs are operating at approximately 70% of their licensed capacity, and several centers are also operating at reduced daily operational hours to continue to meet their staffing requirements to meet child ratios. Without taking into consideration the needed areas of expansion, operators report that an additional 150 staff would be required to be at full operational capacity at their regular hours. This includes frontline staff, support staff, and supply staff to support the regular operations. Operators are reporting an increase in staff leaving the sector and greater difficulty in replacing those staff. The high demand for employment across the region is resulting in staff leaving for other sectors. There are things like higher pay and signing bonuses that are attracting them to leave this program. We recognize the critical importance of ECEs and are working with our partners in Bruce County to create a committee that will focus on the recruitment and retention of staff to support quality early learning and childcare for both our regions. The activities outlined in the report are a good first step for strategic long-term planning, and we continue to work on strategies to support the immediate needs that are being faced. We are waiting on details on the possible federal provincial universal childcare plan, and we'll bring a report back to Council with local impacts and opportunities when we receive that information. I'd also like to take a brief moment to thank the dedication of the staff working in the licensed childcare program throughout the pandemic. They have pivoted with all the changing requirements from public health and the Ministry of Education to continue to provide quality and engaging programming for our youngest residents. And I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tara. I don't think we can thank the childcare sector enough. What they did during the pandemic, man, thank you. Questions from Council? I see none. Oh, Councillor Mackey, I'll go with you first.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Thanks for the presentation. Are there any daycare centers that are available to people working shift work? Any of the licensed beds cater to people that work night shift?
Doesn't like me this morning. For you, Mr. Warden, our licensed home childcare program does offer some overnight care. We are currently working on recruiting more people that will offer that care, but our licensed center base do not offer care past regular, typically 6 to 6 or 7 to 6 hours. To operate a licensed childcare center under the requirements for overnight care is very cost prohibitive. Staffing would be also very difficult. So we're really focusing on the home childcare angle to try to support that.
Thank you. Councillor Carlton, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I was also questioning the same thing that Councillor Mackey was, but I look forward when we're looking at a nursing program going in at Georgian College. How many of the students that attend that will be perhaps young parents living in the area who are going to need expanded healthcare or daycare for their children? And wondering if anyone has ever looked at sort of a 24-hour daycare that would operate, say, out of the hospital. And could that also be part of a training program for the early childhood education, if there's a way to support that and try to combine everything moving forward? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Warden. It's definitely an innovative idea. We did briefly discuss that 3 or 4 years ago about the need for that. As I said, the operational logistics of that are fairly complex. I know there is one center in Barrie that operates that, but they are very few and far between. But if that's something that council would like more information on, we can certainly research that for you.
Do not see any other hands. Okay, so we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? And waited long enough? Anyone opposed? And seeing none, that too is carried. Supposed to go into closed meeting right now in your hands. It's okay, good. Then we are going to be going into a closed meeting. Madam Clerk, who needs to stay?
Staying will be CAO Wingrove, Director Morrow, myself, Tara, Rob, and Randy Schertzer.
So we'll just take a few seconds. Yeah. Oh, yes. We do need a motion to go into closed. That's a move by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Patterson.